What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Phillip Lamb. Today I'm joined with Tyler Ram. Tyler, there's a motorcycle in the background. How's it going?
It's going great. I don't have any motorcycles in my area, so that's
what are you saying about our areas there, Tyler? What
I mean,
what
I
is
don't
that?
know what part of town you live in. I've been to your place. It's a nice.
You've been to
part
my
of town.
place.
You got a burrito spot right by you. I mean, it's not that bad.
I actually went there today for dinner, so it was awesome. Yeah.
I gotta fess up. I live in Surrey, and those were the biking gangs around my neck of the woods. So if you hear gunshots, then yeah, it'll definitely be me.
Don't talk about the biker gangs.
Yeah.
Aetan Hensby, you're alive. You're in Surrey. Hopefully the biker gangs aren't getting at you. How is the day going for you, man?
Yeah, it's been a good day. It's been an interesting day. We had a fantasy draft last night, which Ryan was a part of. Tyler didn't make this one, but it was a little bit of a rough start because we had some setting issues. So the draft got bumped 2 hours so we could deal with some setting issues. So we were up a little bit later than we all anticipated doing a draft, but it was worth the lack of sleep. It's exciting to get back into this part of the season, and I'm extremely pumped and excited. I absolutely love this time of the year, and I'll trade sleep for fantasy drafts any day of the week.
No shit. Well, I'll tell you what, word to the wise, if you're ever going to be hosting a fantasy draft and you're a commissioner, get your settings done before the draft. Way before the draft, because if you're hungover from the night before and you gotta fuck around with settings, screw around with settings, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Jeez. So what
good recovery though. Good recovery.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't think I drafted as well as I recovered with getting the whole draft set up, but I mean, that's okay. Today, we're going to be taking you through a little mock draft that the three of us have done. We're going to go through rounds 1 through to 10 to help you get ready for your draft. But before we begin, of course, we got to tell you about the Drive for 500. Join us in our Drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. What's going on, everybody? We've got Tyler, Aetan, and Ryan here helping you get through the first 5 rounds of your upcoming fantasy draft. CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. What's going on, YouTube? It's good to see you guys in beautiful virtual podcast spacing. We've got Tyler, we've got Aetan, we've got Ryan, and we've got a little bit of a mock draft that we're going to be going through. Now, as you can see here, it's a 12-team, 0.5 point per reception league. And we're just going to go through all of our picks in the first 10 rounds. This is episode 1, so we're going to go through rounds 1 through 5. And we're going to go ahead and start off with Aetan in the 4th spot. Aetan, you went with Alvin Kamara, who tore something in his knee back in week 6 of last year. And he also suffered a high ankle sprain that led him to miss 2 games. So, of course, his numbers from last year are not as good as we had expected them to be, but we're expecting a bounce back. What are you thinking when you're drafting Alvin Kamara this year?
There's definitely the concern, and quite honestly, I think that he's going to be fine. He doesn't have a real big history of this, and he played through some of these injuries, and he did come back quicker than some players from these injuries. So I think he's a little bit more durable than people think because of his willingness to fight through his injuries. But when you got a pick in the first four, it's kind of just to close your eyes and take the top guy because the first four are pretty much guaranteed to go as the first four. So if for some reason someone else took Kamara and then Zeke dropped or Barkley dropped, I would be just as happy taking any of those guys. This is a foolproof pick, and it's pretty brain dead. You just see the button and you click it immediately. You don't have to give it much thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think that top 5, top 6 is pretty automatic. One of the interesting things that happened in this particular mock draft, though, is one of the people in the top 6, in my opinion, actually dropped to Tyler, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Everybody who's watched the podcast knows that Clyde is my boy. And, of course, we all know about me nattering about Andy Reid and his top 18 fantasy running back finishes. By the way, it's only 5 times that he didn't have a top 18 fantasy running back in the last 21 years. Only 5 times. That's crazy. So, Tyler, what was your thinking? Were you just simply thinking, hey, let's make sure that Ryan doesn't get Clyde?
Oh, that definitely is a factor in anything I do, is to make sure I can mess up with what I'm planning to do. But no, I guess I've been hanging out with you too much on these podcasts because I'm starting to come around to your thinking right now. Clyde's a lot of positive feedback coming back from training camp. Andy Reid thinks this guy can tote the rock. He's not afraid to give him the ball, and I think that's going to translate into plays on the field. As far as other options go, I do want to go running back if Michael Thomas is gone at this point. So I feel like Clyde is a safer bet just because he plays on such a better offense than Miles Sanders currently does, and I'm not a big Joe Mixon guy myself, so Clyde was an easy pick for me in this spot right now. He's we did a running back show just a bit ago, and I had Clyde ranked way down. I think he was barely in my top 10. He might have been 11 for me, but as you can see, I got him in my top 6 now. So yeah, I'm starting to join the bandwagon with you, bud.
Well, everybody hop aboard the Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype train. I'm the conductor. Next up, so here I am in the 12 spot, and I'll be honest, I feel like the 12 spot is a really difficult place to draft. It ended up that Julio Jones fell to me, so I dig that. You're looking at 6 straight seasons where Julio has posted more than 1,390 yards. It's a beautiful offense. The Falcons are going to do some serious noise for sure in this year. So there's no question that you're looking at a player that is going to be a wide receiver 1 more often than not, and that's the most important thing. And then you go down. I decided to go with Josh Jacobs for my first running back pick. I could have went with Kenyon Drake there, but I just went with Jacobs because despite the fact that there is a ton of pass-catching running backs that have been drafted by Las Vegas, I still feel like you take a look at Josh Jacobs and the way that his production went last year, you can have a no-doubter top 10 running back finish out of Jacobs just by the way that they use him already. You add a couple more passes in there, which I don't think is outside of the realm of possibility. He is going to be his ceiling is probably, I don't know, top 4, top 3. So I felt like Jacobs in that spot was the way I wanted to go, especially if I'm going to be running away from those biker gangs. I want someone running with me like a Josh Jacobs. Next up, we've got Travis Kelce, of course, on that high octane Kansas City Chiefs offense, and you went with a little stack there, Tyler, of Chiefs.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm pretty big on them this year. I think they're going to be very the offense is going to be run very similar to what it did last year, which was a top 3 offense, and I think they could even push for the number 1 spot this year. Travis Kelce is obviously a huge part of that. Regularly, I'm not big on tight ends, but at that point in the draft, the safe bets for wide receiver and running back were already taken. I was tempted by DeAndre Hopkins a little bit, but I just feel with that new being in a new scenario with with a change in preseason from a normal year, it just seems like too much of a risk for that high of a pick. Travis
Yeah.
Kelce, you're guaranteed points every single week. That guy's going to get yards every single week. And having a big floor in your tight end position is very unique. There's only two guys in the NFL that can give you that. So why not make a nice safe spot for you in your tight end spot?
Absolutely. My back pocket stat with Travis Kelce is that he finished as the wide receiver 11 if he was a wide receiver. So I think that that is huge. That is amazing safety for a spot, a slot that is typically difficult to find scoring in. Someone who didn't have trouble finding some scoring last year was Aaron Jones, and that's the next pick that we've got Aetan doing. What was it, 15 touchdowns last year for Aaron Jones?
No, higher. He was at 19.
15 on the ground, 4 in the air?
16 on the ground, 3 in the air. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah,
so
and you know what? I don't anticipate that to happen again. Like those are really crazy numbers, but I could easily see him hitting 10 touchdowns on the ground, and I could see him hitting 3 to 4 in the air. So even if you take away 4 touchdowns from this guy, he's still going to finish as a RB2/fringe 1. So he's very safe. I think we've mentioned the term revenge tour with Rodgers. Well, they did the same thing with Aaron Jones. So I think these two guys, Aaron Rodgers and Jones, are both going to have great seasons because they're both a little pissed off at what their management did. Whether that actually produces on the field, we'll have to see. But with a healthy Devontae Adams, I think this offense is actually going to be a little bit better than it was last year. Last year, they won a lot of tight games. They were probably the flukiest. Were they 10 wins or were they? Yes. I forget their record. Was it 10? Yeah, they were probably the flukiest 10-win team we'd seen in recent history, but there's no reason to suspect that they won't be able to get back up there with players like Jones, Devontae Adams, and Rodgers. So I'm very happy to get him in this spot. The big thing I was questioning, and the guy that went right after, was George Kittle. I do like the idea of locking down tight ends like what Tyler did, but I just had an itch to take Jones here. But Kittle is a very good option in this point as well.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see Kittle going at that spot. I've actually seen Kittle go before Kelce in a couple of drafts over the weekend as well. So it is kind of interesting. And like you said, a solid tight end. That's why you're going to see those two going in the second round for sure. If we're looking into the third round, you drafted James Conner, and I think that pick is phenomenal. We've been seeing him crawling up the draft boards recently, and if you're looking for a solid running back 2, which is your running back 3 on this particular squad, which is you're going running back heavy this year.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I look at this and unfold, I kind of think that I probably should have gone with Kittle if I knew Connor was going to be there. But I'm pretty happy to lock up these 3 guys. It's a year of huge question marks with COVID, and it's a year of huge question marks with lack of training camp. So there's going to be some key injuries happening very quickly in this year. So you're going to see a lot of people losing their starting running backs very fast. So you can never have enough depth in the position. And it's a reason why I'm kind of glad we're doing this with such a deep bench. Is you can really see the dart throws on handcuffs and the dart throws on people who can take huge roles this year. And I think it's a big thing that you need to be eyeing up, because the more of these drafts I do, the more I realize it might be better to take handcuffs than it is to take rookie wide receivers. But that can be up for debate.
Absolutely. I think that we were talking a lot about how the running backs were drying up, especially while we were doing the mock draft as well. And that kind of helped Tyler with his decision to go with his next pick, which is Todd Gurley. Of course, you have a special affinity for Todd Gurley because, well, he was a Ram for so long. And then, of course, Gurley's knee being a question mark, that's never a good thing. But going to that high-scoring offense, there's a lot of potential, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think anybody who's watched the podcast has known I've talked about the fact that this whole offense is all first-round picks in the NFL draft. Like, we're expecting this offense to take off from what they did last year. And Gurley doesn't have a lot of competition in the backfield. Ito Smith is currently the backup for him. Devontae Freeman's gone, left town. So I think this is Gurley's train to run. I'm not worried about his knee. I know that's kind of what dropped him a bit last year. that might be why the Rams did not choose to stick with him. But I feel like Gurley has a lot to offer, and he's going to want to prove that he belongs in that starting role in it, not only in the NFL, but well, I mean, I don't think he cares about fantasy, but he's gonna put up the stats, and he's gonna be I believe he's gonna be a solid RB2, and that's what I put him on my team. So
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good bet. I think that if he is healthy, he's a no doubter RB2 with like some amazing upside for sure. So I don't hate that pick in the third round, especially the way running backs are this year. My next pick ends up being Adam Thielen. So last year, of course, he had some back problems and whatnot. I feel like he's 30 years old, and for someone who is in a contract year, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for him, especially with Diggs gone. Thielen, regardless of injury, like he's seen amazing target volume. Over the past 2 seasons, he's seen almost 300 targets between the last 2 years. That's nuts. And if he is healthy, he is a great high-end wide receiver too. He's a great complement to my pick of Julio Jones in the first. And then you've got Melvin Gordon. Of course, there has recently been some reports out of Denver that he's been struggling with the altitude and whatnot. But regardless of that, Melvin Gordon is an amazing running back. He's awesome. And if you're looking at someone who can definitely tote the rock, of course, there's Philip Lindsay there, so apparently he's doing really well. But regardless of that, I still feel like it's going to be a split that's going to favor Gordon. And if you're worried about Gordon not getting the work, well, guess what? Philip Lindsay is super cheap, and he is very available. And spoiler alert, I might have gotten him myself. Yes, I did. And we'll talk about that in a later episode. So definitely, that is a lot of fun. Next up for Tyler, it's your first wide receiver, A.J. Brown. Now, how do you feel about A.J. Brown being your wide receiver 1? How do you feel about your team composition at this point?
Well, so I mean, I would have liked to take a wide receiver earlier, but just the way the draft progressed, I just there were those carrots like with the Travis Kelce pick, for example. I decided to go strong on tight ends, so I was prepared to maybe be a little bit lower rated in my wide receiver part of my bench, but I'm not too worried about AJ Brown. I was debating between him and the person that Aetan's probably going to talk about next. I decided to go with Brown just because in Tennessee he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the wide receiver. He's going to get a ton of targets, and as we saw last year, they're going to be downfield, deep targets, which he's capable of bringing in. And he's going to get those touchdowns too. Because Tennessee is a good team. They have a great defense. Derrick Henry is clearly the main piece in Tennessee, but A.J. Brown is a great compliment. We saw Ryan Tannehill comeback player of the year last year, so I expect him to build on that. And A.J. Brown is just going to benefit from all that.
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that. So you've got him as your wide receiver 1, and then we skip on down to Aetan, who's got Calvin Ridley as his wide receiver 1. Now, how do you feel about having a wide receiver 2 as your wide receiver 1?
Well, spoiler alert, I don't actually think Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 1. I think the next receiver that I drafted is my wide receiver 1. I think Ridley is going to be the second receiver on my team. I like the upside of him. I mean, this guy has Chris Godwin 2.0 written all over him based on what the anticipation and hype was with him coming into the season. He's finished strong, and he seems to have the respect of his team, the respect of his coaches. And I believe on the last podcast when we were talking about him, I said this guy is one of the premier receivers in the league at running routes. Sorry. He's extremely good at it, and he gets a lot of separation on his cuts. So he gets open and he gets a lot of yards because of that. And I think there's lots of room for him to grow, and we're seeing him grow each year, and I'm very excited to have him here.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got Mo Sanu leaving that offense, leaving 100 targets. There's no way Russell Gage is going to be taking all of them. So why not go saddle up, Ridley?
Yeah, yeah.
Next up is apparently your wide receiver one, who's Devontae Parker. Of course, we've got Ryan Fitzpatrick starting, or apparently that's what it's looking like out of camp so far. You do have
Mhm.
Preston Williams coming back, but when you're looking at Parker, he had 128 targets, and he finished as the number 7 wide receiver last year. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think he's getting a lot of disrespect in a lot of pools and a lot of leagues, and I get why. He came off with an extremely slow start, and then it wasn't until last year that he actually showed something. So a lot of people are sitting there going, you know what, I want to see this guy prove it before I invest draft capital. But here we go. He's 5th round. This is not a huge investment, and the upside of him is just through the roof. I mean, this guy finished as a WR1 last year, and Miami had their wide receiver 3 and their wide receiver 4 both opt out of the season. So the targets are even going to go up even more. I mean, the options are diminishing there. So I think if you're not a big Parker fan, then you got to jump on you just said his name. Who's their other receiver?
Preston Williams?
Preston Williams. So if you don't believe in Devontae Parker, then you should be investing in Williams immediately, because one of those two guys is going to put up big numbers. So I especially with Fitzmagic there throwing the ball, I think this guy's an absolute steal for his ADP, and I'm very excited to see him on my roster in the 5th round here. Or is this 6?
It is the 5th round. So
Fifth. Sorry,
to get a wide receiver 2 with that sort of upside in the 5th round is insane. It's almost unheard of. So that's just a reminder. As much as you're going to see some really good wide receiver values in the earlier parts, the earlier third of your drafts, definitely keep in mind, look for those running backs. You're going to like your team a lot more with more running backs this particular year. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I jump on that? Yeah. I agree exactly with what he's saying. I think the running backs that you're seeing in rounds 4 through 7, these are extremely, extremely high-end, talented wide receivers. I think after you hit rounds 1 through 4, the running backs really start to drop off. So I'm really starting to become a huge, huge advocate of, in your first 5 rounds, you want to rock out of there with 3 running backs. If you want to go with a tight end and 3 running backs and 1 wide receiver, that's fine. If you want to throw a quarterback in there, that's fine. But I really think you should be aiming to grab 3 running backs in the first 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm. And notice how you didn't lock it to specific rounds. It's more of a variable of where you can find the value.
Exactly.
Tyler, how are you feeling about that particular strategy this year?
I agree I somewhat agree to it, although I didn't do that in this draft, mainly because I was worried about getting the wide receiver position. While it is very deep, the elite talent isn't as deep as we might think. So I didn't want to lose out on the chance of I want to at least have 2 starting wide receivers that I feel comfortable and don't have to worry about and stress over. So that's why I decided I went with wide receiver on my next pick because of that.
Yeah.
But I agree with Aetan to the point where I would say top 6 is where I would say you need 3 running backs.
Okay.
Top 5, if the draft falls that way, absolutely do it. I mean, hey, you could do top 3 like Aetan did in this draft, and I'm sure you wouldn't be too upset about it. So yeah, it all depends on when the value comes to you. But yeah, absolutely, you definitely need to have that running back backup because it's going to get pretty thin midway through your draft, and then you're going to be wishing you took some more. So in talking about that, I chose to go with a wide receiver, and that is DK Metcalf. This guy's a rookie,
which is a great pick.
It's a great pick, yeah.
Great pick.
Yeah, I was debating between him and Cortland Sutton. I went with him. I like his physicality more. I like the fact that he could play as a tight end type of player, but he could also get deep. So he has that versatile dual threat kind of ability. Like he's a big guy, but he can get downfield quickly. I mean, that's the thing you love about a wide receiver. So in Seattle, there is Tyler Lockett to always take targets away. But you got to remember, so Seattle's defense is they're not looking great this year. I think their offense is going to be putting up a ton of points, and they're going to be trying to get those points quickly, which means whether you go Lockett or Metcalf, you're going to be getting big numbers and big, deep looks every single game. And Russell gets the ball to his receivers. Like, I mean, as a Rams fan, I hate to admit it, but Russell gets the ball where he needs to go. So So if he's got a huge target like Metcalf out there, I'm trying to get a piece of that. So yeah, so I'm pretty happy with him as my wide receiver too. Looking at my team, so I got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and Travis Kelce. I'm very happy with that. And I mean, you'll see later that I go pretty running back heavy just to back it up, kind of to cover what Aetan was saying, just in case I need something in the flex or on 2 starters get a bye week. But where I am, I'm pretty happy with what I have.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I love your start. I think it's a great start. Just wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great start. You're talking about a wide receiver who's 6'4", 229 pounds. And not a lot of people remember this, but he actually broke the rookie receiving record for receiving yards in a playoff game last year with 160 yards in a playoff game versus the Eagles. Not too shabby. And he's a rookie, you know. It's like, so what is his sophomore season going to look like with someone like Russell Wilson throwing him the ball? I think that's fantastic. Speaking of people who had really great playoff runs, Raheem Mostert ends up being the next player that I draft right there in round 5. And I know that there's a lot of talk about just how this team, the San Francisco team, they use running back by committee. They'll go with the hot hand. But towards the end, I feel like Mostert's playoff performance solidified his role as the running back 1. Now, is there going to be times when you're going to have a Tevin Coleman or even maybe a Jerick McKinnon featured in a game? Sure, that's going to happen. Is it difficult to trust an older running back who hasn't done it before? Yes. I get all that. But in this particular spot, I felt like Mostert was a great pick just because when you look at him, he had 8 straight games where he totaled at least 10 carries and 53 rushing yards. That's a great floor for a running back 3, and that's how I drafted him as. What do you guys think of my team so far?
I definitely like the Mostert pick. I think he's got a lot of upside for where he's going in the draft. I absolutely agree with that. I'm a little concerned about Melvin Gordon personally myself. You did mention he's not adapting to the air up there. I heard today Philip Lindsay might be calling up boards because they're going to use him a lot more than we originally thought. But other than that, other than that, you did a good traditional 3 running back, 2 wide receiver start. I mean, that's going to set you up for the rest of the draft where you could have a little bit more leeway. So that is a smart way to do it, I think.
Yeah, and I wish I took advantage of that leeway a little bit more as a spoiler alert for the next episode. But we'll definitely get into that in the next episode. So really quick, let's just go ahead and run down. Let's start with Aetan. Who were your 5 picks?
I started with Alvin Kamara at running back, Aaron Jones at running back, James Conner at running back, and then I followed it up with Calvin Ridley on receiver and Devontae Parker on receiver. And I got to say, this is a very, very good start. I really like this start.
Excellent. And then Tyler, go ahead and name your players.
All right, so I got a rookie running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my RB1. Getting a ton of points in my tight end position with Travis Kelce. Going with my man Todd Gurley as my RB2. And then I drafted back-to-back wide receivers, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. So I'm very happy with this start. I'm definitely, you're going to see in the next episode, I'm going to go running back heavy just to get that depth in that position for me. I'm pretty solid here, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And then for my team, I went Julio Jones in the first, Josh Jacobs in the second, Adam Thielen in the third, Melvin Gordon in the fourth, and then Raheem Mostert in the fifth. That leaves me with, like Tyler said, a very, very traditional setup of 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers to start my draft. So yeah, that is it for this particular episode. But the next one, we're going to go through rounds 6 to 10. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. Join us in our drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. There's just something about that theme music that just gets in your head and it stays there. We've only had this theme music for a couple weeks now, and literally every single day it pops in my head. I don't know about you guys. What about you guys? Do you guys hear our theme song?
Oh yeah, it's the soundtrack of the summer. I think so.
I think so.
Wild Dove, they're a pretty good up and coming band.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it pumps me up whenever I hear it. It now has even more meaning. I always liked it to begin with, but now it has even more meaning because it means I get to talk some football with you two guys.
It's beautiful, and we are talking football. You're here with Aetan Tyler and myself, Ryan, and we are currently doing a mock draft. We're reviewing a mock draft. We're going through rounds 6 to 10. So if you missed the first episode, go ahead. It's going to be in the annotation somewhere on the screen. I'm just going to point all over somewhere. My finger's eventually going to point where that, wherever that thing is, man. The dancing's for free.
Yeah.
The dancing's for free. Please subscribe.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at everybody loves my comedy. So this is our draft board. And for my 6th round pick, I went with Kareem Hunt. Now, for those who watched the previous episode, I actually came into this spot with 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers, but I couldn't help but draft Kareem Hunt. Now, of course, Nick Chubb did have some concussion issues through training camp. It's no big deal. He is back on the field, but he did go through the concussion protocol. The moment I saw that, I automatically thought to myself, what would that offense look like if it was just Kareem Hunt? And the answer is it would just be a gong show. I feel like Kareem Hunt, if he is isolated, he has top 10 potential easy. And even with his utilization, where the split's going to be 55-45, maybe 60-40, even if he gets the 40 portion of that split, he's still going to be a solid running back, especially for that spot in that round. So I couldn't help myself. I love running backs. So I had to go with Kareem Hunt right there. And speaking of running backs, Tyler, you went with the rookie sensation, Cam Akers, who's actually turning some heads right now in Rams practice. What's going on with that? So do you feel confident with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some more unfortunate news over the weekend with Darrell Henderson getting the hamstring injury. It looks like he should be ready for week 1. But yeah, just losing all that preseason time in such a weird preseason. It looks like this is, it's going to become the fact that they drafted him where they did in the actual NFL draft. It's going to eventually become his job. But I think this might speed things up a little bit because I think he's now leapfrogged past Henderson, where it was originally probably looking like a pretty muddied backfield. I think he's going to emerge probably by week 3 as the starter. I still think Malcolm Brown will get the starts week 1 and 2 just to kind of get things going. And I think Malcolm Brown might steal some goal line work throughout the season. But Cam Akers is the reason they got him is because he's very versatile. He plays that Todd Gurley style from a couple of years ago where he could be a 3-down back and also he could help a lot in the passing game, which Sean McVay loves because he could run that play action. And then if there's nobody downfield, Goff could just dump it off to Akers there. And then usually he's got a lot of room because those screen passes are always going to be like those screen routes and screen passes are what McVay is all about. That's what he made his name on. I think Akers is going to fit perfectly in that style of offense.
Yeah, for sure. You have to offset that really bad offensive line somehow. So yeah, screen passes, I totally get it. And that's not a shot. It's kind of a shot. My bad.
From the Seahawk fan, talking about an offensive line. Okay.
Yeah. No. Could someone protect him? Someone protect Russell Wilson, please, please.
You guys at Unger, you gave him away for nothing. I mean, that's ancient history now. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
going.
hide my tears behind this behind this draft board. What were you gonna say, Aetan?
Going from bad offensive lines to good offensive lines would be my pick.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about the. We're all talking about our teams right
I
now
know.
because
Yeah.
Michael Gallup is the next one up.
Yeah. Which.
A10, beautiful pick there. Did you know? Of course you knew. But the viewers at home, did you know that Michael Gallup averaged more targets per game than Amari Cooper last year? That is not surprising because Michael Gallup was phenomenal last year.
Yeah, and you know what? There's been a little bit of a chemistry coming between Dak and Gallup, and it's growing a bit each year. In Gallup's rookie year, 2 years ago, there was probably about 4 passes that Gallup was wide open, but Dak kind of overthrew him a bit. And if he had toned those in, he would have had 4 more touchdowns just in his rookie year. These guys are getting a lot of chemistry. Gallup is an extremely reliable player. I actually think he's more consistent than Cooper. I think Cooper will finish the year with more fantasy points, but I think Gallup will make you not pull your hair out as much because Cooper can go on a 2-3 game stretch where he gives you 2 catches for 24 yards, and then he'll do 3 catches for 210 or something ridiculous. But Gallup is an extremely safe option, and with Cobb and with Witten both leaving the team, there's even more targets up for share. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is going to be after some of them, but by all accounts, this is a 3-headed monster of wide receivers on this team, and all 3 of them are going to see their shares. I could see all 3 of these guys getting between 90 to 120 targets each. And if he hits those numbers, he'll finish right where I've drafted him, right in that nice soft WR3 / maybe WR2 if he gets the right amount of touchdowns.
Yeah, and I see him going WR2 more. I mean, like, let's also consider Dak Prescott is technically in a contract year. I mean, he is, right? So, I mean, like, he's going to get paid one way or the other.
Yep.
He might get franchise tagged. Either way, I feel like Dak has to ball out this season.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no question. So let's go from a great offensive line to another great offensive line. And your next pick, which is Ronald Jones, Tyler. Now, of course, recently I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that's you, Aetan. So
yes.
You must be stoked to have him. Recently, there was some talk out of Tampa Bay Buccaneers camp that there have been some drop passes, but don't let that scare you. Because guess what? Ronald Jones this year, it's a thing. And he's going to be catching passes from Tom frickin' Brady.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, to get him this low seems like a really good deal. I have put some caution on this pick, and I still will put some caution on this player. It's his field to have for now, but he can lose it quicker than almost any running back in the league. If he struggles or if he misses assignments, I can see them going to their depth pretty darn quickly, whereas a lot of other running backs might get a little bit longer of a leash. But as of right now, he is their guy, and if he becomes their guy and stays their guy, he's going to have a very productive season. And getting him in the 7th is, in my opinion, a very, very safe spot to grab him.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great pick. I love that pick for sure. And yeah, it's going to be a thing. I swear it's going to be a thing. Why don't we go ahead and talk about Tyler's pick? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
But Tyler picked Jordan Howard out of the Miami Dolphins. What?
You've skipped one round.
Have I skipped one round?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Good. That's all good.
Marvin. Oh, I'm sorry. How could I skip Marvin Gordon? How could I miss him?
I'm never going to live this down.
You're never going to live that down. Never. Marvin Gordon. Marvin Jones, of course. So here's a little stat for you. Despite playing just 13 games and playing with backup quarterback, Marvin Jones finished as a top 30 wide receiver last year. Top 30. Tyler, you must be stoked to get him in the 6th round. 7th round?
Oh, yeah.
7th round.
Yeah.
7th round.
I got him late. I know Aetan is also very high on Marvin Jones. And like we've discussed in earlier episodes, this guy is just as productive as Kenny Golladay. He's gotten those targets. He's gotten those looks, and he's a big guy that can get down the field. Similar to what I said about DK Metcalf, these big wide receivers that can also get their legs moving and get down the field are dual threats where they can get targets all over the field. And that's where you're going to find value in fantasy football, is where you're not just worrying about one type of play, and that's when your guy's getting the ball. He's going to get the ball on any down for any purpose that they're looking for. So while he is the wide receiver 2 in Detroit behind Galladay, like we've learned, he could surpass Galladay. And if you're looking at it, Galladay is going in the 3rd round. I'm getting him in the 7th. I'll take that value any day of the week. And so at this point in my team, he's my 3rd wide receiver to join my team. And so he's going to be in my flex position or coming off the bench. And a guy with that talent in that spot on my team, I'm very excited for.
Yeah, that's awesome. By the way, word to the wise, if you are going to have a draft weekend, try to schedule your shows not after that weekend, because oh boy. But thank you for watching. Go ahead and click like and subscribe. I'm so glad that you guys are still with us. Next up, I picked a Ram, and I'm not one of those people who will deny talent, and Tyler Higbee is definitely that talent. For sure. Am I in the right round? Now I'm guessing everything. I'm totally not.
You are totally off by 2.
Oh my
god. Okay, let me just tell the viewers one thing here. We did our draft on 2 nights ago. Our main Can-Am draft, and for sure the drunkest of the draft award went to Ryan by the end of it all. So you're gonna have to bear with him. He's a new father, and he's trying to jig the whole drinking days. So anyways, back to you, Ryan. It's round 7.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought this whole hosting a show, being a new dad, would be a difficult thing? Deontay Johnson in round 7. So I'm stoked that I managed to get this very trendy player. Deontay Johnson, of course, he's playing the Antonio Brown role in this offense. You're going to have Juju Smith-Schuster going back to the slot, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity. There's been some really good reports out of camp for sure. So I'm stoked to get him. Now, I know that when we're talking about Deontay Johnson, he is not Antonio Brown, which is a good thing because he means he can actually play in the league. But honestly, when you've got Ben Roethlisberger throwing you the ball, it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. So I'm really stoked to have him on my squad. He's a trendy pick. In around the 7th round, I can see him going pretty quick. The next one I have up is Philip Lindsay. Now, Philip Lindsay is the handcuff to Melvin Gordon, who I ended up drafting in the 4th or 5th round. It's up there somewhere. I'm not going to concern myself with accuracy at this point. With all the reports coming out of camp of how good Philip Lindsay is doing, I wanted to make sure that I was safe. So when you have a running back that can actually go ahead and have standalone value and get him as low as the 8th round, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all, especially when you've got someone who has the opportunity to really shine. And of course, if Melvin Gordon goes down, you have got that safety valve. And we've seen in 2 straight years, this is an undrafted running back that's run for over 1,000 yards. So I will take that in a heartbeat. I dig it. I dig me some Philip Lindsay. He does good work.
Yeah.
I think what you should say is anybody who's drafting Melvin Gordon should be going after Philip Lindsay for sure. That's a great combo to have. I think so. That's a good.
Absolutely. If you're looking to. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and honestly, if you can steal him, like he's also one of those great high upside. Maybe you throw him in the flex occasionally, and if Melvin Gordon goes down, you've got a solid running back too right there, and that is really nice. Next up, I mentioned his name before in this podcast. It's Jordan Howard. So Jordan Howard, coming from Miami. He used to be with the Eagles. So it's going to be really exciting to see what he's able to do. And any time that Jordan Howard has had the lead role, he's been able to do a lot. So I like where you got him there, Tyler.
Yeah, he's my RB4. So he's going to be in and out of my flex, or maybe just filling in if I do take an injury, which we're all kind of thinking we might see some injuries for running backs this year. So at this point in the draft, I'm pretty happy with them. Miami, I'm not excited about their offense that much, but he should get a lot of touches. So Matt Breida is there. I was just reading today, they are actually lining Matt Breida up in the wide receiver slot a lot, and sometimes with Jordan Howard on the field at the same time, which tells me that Jordan Howard is going to be that bell cow, well, not bell cow back, but he is going to be that the traditional, run the ball from behind the line of scrimmage back as opposed to Breida. So he's not going to be getting a lot of third down looks probably, and maybe in a half PPR you're not going to see a lot of catches, which you've never gotten from him anyway. But this guy can pound the rock. Like, this is a big man who could knock over defensive linemen and get those extra yards after contact. So, and you saw him do it in Chicago. You've seen him do it in Philly. Put up relevant fantasy yards with other guys taking touches away from him, like with Tariq Cohen in Chicago and Miles Sanders last year in Philly. So yeah, I'm excited for him at this spot, and at this point, I still feel like running back heavy is good for you because that's the spot you want a lot of depth, is your running back position, and yeah, so my fourth running back being Howard, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, great value for sure. Jordan Howard, definitely. It's a good spot for him for sure. Next up, we have an Atlanta stack from Aetan going with Matt Ryan, and then one of my favorite players to draft this year, which is Hayden Hurst. But let's start with Matt Ryan. Of course, if we're going to be talking about how Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are going to be going off this year, we have to be saying that regardless of age, Matt Ryan's going to have a good season. His last 4 years, he's had finishes of QB 11, QB 2, QB 15, and QB 2, and yet he's going in this spot in the draft. That's beautiful.
Yeah, pretty much everything you said. This is the 10th running back off the board, and I was looking over at both your guys' team and realized neither of you had taken a quarterback yet. So I figured if I didn't grab him around this round, I probably wouldn't see him. And I do think that there is a little bit of a drop off after him, based on who is there. So I grabbed him with the first quarterback out of the three of us, and I'm happy to have him in that spot, especially considering I have 4 solid running backs and 3 solid wide receivers. I think it's a good time to finally get your first quarterback when you are liking the depth that you've already created. So I'm very ecstatic to pick Matt Ryan in the 8th round here.
And so Matt Ryan, we're expecting him to go somewhere in the neighborhood of 620 pass attempts. Last year, Austin Hooper totaled 97 targets in just 13 games, which is a pace of 119 targets over a 16-game season, and that's what's going to be going to Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's why he's being drafted here. That's why people are going high on him. He lost his job to Mark Andrews, and that was just a product of Mark Andrews just being a better fit for that team. I'm not even necessarily sure Mark Adams is a better tight end than Hayden Hurst. I think just based on the system and the team, he had more opportunity there, and we'll see what happens this year. This is a very good opportunity for him, and if he's able to grab it and do what Ryan just said, see 100 targets, he's going to be an extremely valuable tight end and a steal in round 9.
Tyler, what do you think? I'm kind of leaning towards kind of plug and play with Hayden Hurst, just from the draft capital that the Ravens spent on him. You have to imagine that he's going to be pretty decent in this offense.
Oh yeah, I'm big on the Atlanta offense. Like obviously Aetan is as well, with the amount of players he's taken from their offense in this draft.
Yeah.
I honestly, with just looking at the other tight ends available at this point, I don't know. Maybe you reach for him just a little bit. I say this round is pretty good to get him. But in this particular draft, not a lot of tight ends have come off the board yet. So you're looking at I believe it's just, so he was the 7th one off the board. Actually, that's where I have him ranked. I have him right around 7. But I feel like I feel like most people don't have him ranked that high. So if you're in your draft, you could probably steal him a little bit later, depending on how far those tight ends are going. I feel like a lot of people are going to go for Higbee over him. Willer's probably
No.
I feel with seeing both of your guys' faces in this draft, my only opportunity to get them was right then.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
Because you guys both had 2 picks before I'd get my next.
I
So.
had
Well, why do you think I went with Higbee? I was
yeah.
going to get Hurst this round.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
I
it's
totally get
great
what you're saying, Tyler.
Yeah.
It's a great pick for sure, though. As a player, he's going to put up, like you said, those targets are up for him to take. So he's got no competition in tight end in Atlanta right now. So it's his job to lose. It's his chance to grab the spotlight right now.
Absolutely. So we go from someone who isn't going to have much competition to Latavius Murray, who's going to have a ton of competition. He's going to have his own role. Again, he's one of those high upside handcuffs that has his own value.
Yeah, and it was kind of fun because I got to steal Aetan's handcuff with this pick. It is great to have him on his own because he puts up those good solid yards. Like Alvin Kamara is more of a catching back. He gets those yards from behind the line of scrimmage as well. But Latavius is gonna be in his own right without a Kamara injury, God forbid. I think Latavius is going to be a great back. He's going to put up a steady floor for you because he's going to be a change of pace back in a great offense in New Orleans. So at this point, he's my running back 5, which, like I said, running back depth is so important. So he's not someone I'm relying on. So at this point in the draft, it's great to have him because he has that upside where he could jump up if they decide to use him in a certain way. And at worst case scenario, if I have to plug him in on someone's bye week, I'm not worried about him because he has that safe floor as well. So at this point in the draft, I'm glad to have him on my team for sure.
Absolutely. Great spot to pick him up for sure. We'll move on to my next pick, which was Tyler Higbee. And did you know that he is the only tight end that has posted 84 plus yards in 5 straight games in the NFL? That is an amazing stat line, and of course Gerald Everett is going back there. But if you got a tight end that's playing as well as him, how do you take him off the field? I don't see it. So that's why I went with him. Next up, we have Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor, he has such a great opportunity. Now, I actually recently saw an argument online where we're talking about how rookie wide receivers don't necessarily produce right away. Jalen Reagor has every single opportunity because, let's face it, we do have an aging Deshaun Jackson. I don't want to short sell his talent, but he is aging, oft injured. He's going to have a couple of blow-up games for sure. But if Jalen Reagor can do anything in this offense, he is going to be an amazing steal at where he's going right now, which is the 10th round. I feel like the 10th round, I get him everywhere. And he has a great opportunity to make some noise this year for sure. Next up, Tyler, we have Zach Moss. And I love this pick. In the 10th round, why do people think Zach Moss, why do people think Devin Singletary is better than Zach Moss? Like, I don't get it. Like, right now you see the difference in ADP. Singletary is going way up. Sure, he's done it in the NFL, but they were both drafted in the 3rd round. They're both great running backs. One's a prospect, but I feel like Zach Moss gives you a little bit of upside as well because he's a great pass catcher and has the bulk to do the Frank Gore role, which is run between the tackles.
Yeah. So last year, Gore was to the detriment of a lot of Singletary drafters. Yeah, Frank Gore was the guy, and people are wondering why isn't Singletary getting the rock? He eventually got it towards the end of the season. By then, it was probably too little, too late for a lot of people. In the offseason prior to the draft, I was thinking, okay, Singletary might be the big breakout guy this year. And then they drafted Zach Moss. This guy came out of Wisconsin. He had a huge year. And he's actually the 3rd rookie I've drafted in this mock today, after CEH and Cam Akers. I think one of the interesting things is I heard the coaching staff in Buffalo is not happy with the way Singletary's lost the ball. Like, he's having fumbling issues. So if that happens in a game or if it happens too much in practice, this could become Zach Moss's job. Like, he could be the RB1 over in Buffalo. And if that happens and you get him in the 10th round, you're flying right now because a starting running back in that offense at this point in the draft is unheard of. So this is one of those examples of a late round home run you could potentially be hitting with this guy. So I'm very excited to get Zach Moss. I think I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying this is his job yet, but there are a lot of factors that could happen this year that would give him that job, and that's just great for anybody who's drafted him.
Absolutely. And then let's go ahead and roll right along to Aetan. Your last pick is Mecole Hardman in the 10th round. Of course, again, we're just finishing off this particular round. And Mecole Hardman right there, I can get why people are so excited for Mecole Hardman. It's neat because I feel like he almost serves as one of the rare wide receiver handcuffs to Tyreek Hill, because I feel like he can play a very similar game to Tyreek Hill. You could almost slot him in if Tyreek was to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the coaching staff has taken him off special teams. He used to be their special team kick returner. Typically, when coaches do that, it means they have a bigger plan for him and they don't want to risk his injury on kick returns, since it's a dangerous profession.
Yeah.
So they pulled him off there, and the big thing that makes me nervous about Hardman is the fact that Sammy Watkins is still there. But every time you see Sammy Watkins, there's always a news report of some lingering injury that he has. And I think he's got one right now as well. I believe it's an ankle. I'm not entirely positive, but
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but between him and Hill's, he gets nicked up too because he's a little bit smaller, a little bit speedier. So, when he gets hit really darn hard because he's moving so fast. So there's opportunity for this guy to move up the lineup. And as what Tyler was saying about CEH and who was the other gentleman you drafted from them? Anyways, from the Kelsey, yeah. So from the that part of that offense, you want to get a piece of it. And yeah, if Hill goes down, this guy could become their top wide receiver, and then you're sitting there with the top wide receiver and the top passing offense. And that's a pretty good place to be.
Absolutely. You want shares in that offense for sure. Well, that is the end of our rounds 6 through 10 of a mock draft, and we are hoping that helps you guys out with your drafts this season. And go ahead and give us a like and subscribe. We're going to be putting out a lot more content this season. A lot less hungover content will be my goal after this episode for sure. So we'll go ahead and we'll say goodbye to the lovely live viewers in just a moment. And yeah, we're going to play an ad. Join us in our drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. And we are live here. It is CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast. We're just wrapping up the live show. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We're going to do a little thing that we like to call What Have We Learned? So let's go ahead and start with Aetan. Aetan, what have we learned today?
We've learned that the more I'm thinking about it and the more I'm seeing it, I think Devontae Parker is probably one of the biggest steals you can possibly get this year if you can grab him in the 5th round. I'm just absolutely all in on this guy right now, and I think he's a great pick to be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Definitely after you picked him and you broke it down, I'm actually a lot higher on Parker too. So thanks for that, Aetan. I really appreciate that.
I'm glad we did our draft a couple days ago before I gave you this bit of info.
Perfect. And neither of us got him. So
no, I got him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
in one.
Fine.
In one.
Oh, I get it. He just likes him because he got him. Tyler, what have we learned today?
Yes.
I think I learned that I'm gonna be going after handcuffs a lot more aggressively this year than in previous years, especially with the lack of preseason, a lot of uncertainty with players' starting abilities, with everything that's going on in the world. I'm gonna going after handcuffs because these late round running backs that you're not spending a lot of draft capital have a lot higher chance of hitting big and winning you the league this year. So yeah, so I'm going to chase the handcuffs. I wouldn't say chase, but I'm going to definitely invest in them a lot heavier than I have in previous years.
Definitely go for those high upside handcuffs if you can get them. Beautiful call, Tyler. What have I learned today? I have learned that I need more running backs in my life, and that's the truth. And it's easy for a person to come on to a fantasy football podcast and be like, "Hey, go running back! Oh, running back, it's trendy." They are such a scarce commodity, and I found out firsthand just what that was like in my draft yesterday. Because I feel like I would have liked my squad a lot better had I not waited to get more running backs. So definitely get those running backs earlier in your drafts. I felt a lot better about my mock draft team than the team that I drafted yesterday, and that's just kind of the way that goes. But hey, don't feel like it's the end of the world. If you feel bad about a team that you've drafted, guess what? The waiver wires are coming, baby. And we're going to be helping you with that all through the season. We're going to be with you for sure. So thank you to Tyler Ram. Thank you to Aetan Hensby. My name is Ryan Phillip Lamb, and thank you all for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast.